we always have like some Brivity clients. We'll often have some non-Brivity clients. So as I show you these, we talk about these farming techniques today, and let me get over here and share my screen. As we talk about some of these farming techniques, couple things I want you guys to realize. If you're here today and you're not a Brivity client, awesome. You don't need to be a Brivity client or have access to the tools that Brivity offers to take action on some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. If you are a Brivity client, you're going to see kind of laced throughout here tools that we offer that you guys can leverage while kind of executing on these techniques. So pay attention for those kind of Brivity tools that if you're a Brivity user, you kind of have at your disposal. If you're not a Brivity user, obviously I'm going to, at the very end, I'm going to try to convince you it's a good idea, right? But just, think about like what tools will you need in order to execute some of this stuff so that Lisa and the Atwood team out there in Baltimore, that's a great city too. You guys have that really cool harbor area downtown. The baseball stadium there, Camden Yards, is a really great place to watch a baseball game. All right, so I now have conjured up in my head where some of you guys are sitting and joining me across the country. Let's dive in and talk farming techniques to dominate an area or maybe even a niche market. It doesn't have to necessarily be a geographic area. My name's Bob Stewart. I've been doing this kind of thing for somewhere around 18 years. And when we first started, the way that we kind of farmed was it was new school internet at that time. And today, these are old tactics, and some of them don't even work anymore. We've been doing this for a while. And I don't, you guys are all here. You know what real estate farming is, right? But there's a definition for you. Okay, I think there's a few words that pop out when I read this definition. And the first one would be it's a process. This is not something we do once. We send one mailer, we do one event, whatever we're going to talk about, right? It's not a one-time thing. And in fact, it's probably not like a one-track effort. These things, as we go through here, you can see how they work in concert in some ways, but it's a process. This is an ongoing. We do this over and over, and we don't expect, much like if you're a farmer, if we go out and plant that seed, right, we don't come back tomorrow to like grab the tomato, right? We water that thing. We put Miracle Grow on it. We water it some more. We trim the leaves back. We make sure there's no bugs on there. Like, we spend a lot of time. There's a process to take that thing from when I first plant my seeds to when I harvest my tomato. And the other thing is I don't just plant one seed, right? I'm planting a lot of seeds, but I'm probably planting them in a specific area, right? I'm not just walking out. If I had 40 acres, right, I'm not just walking out there and throwing seeds everywhere. In fact, if I did that, the yield I'm going to get is going to be greatly reduced. So I want you guys to think about this, because the reality is the things that we're going to talk about today, they're not particular to farming. I mean, these are real estate prospecting methods, and they can be done to any size audience and really anywhere. Right? In almost every single market across the country. And I work with very closely with the Ben Kinney team and all of our, 38 expansion teams that we have now across the United States in all vastly different size markets, really small markets like Midland, Texas, where we've had a phenomenal success doing an event, and we'll talk about the strategy for that. All the way up to places like Chicago and Atlanta and Dallas, right? Some of the largest markets in the country. But I want you guys to think about this. If you had 100,000 people see your message one time versus 10,000 people see your message 10 times, and then at the end of the day, you surveyed those people. And I want you to think like, we'll see how some of these messages can be delivered. But how many messages get delivered to your brain every day? How many marketing messages? Look around where you are right now. Just look around. Like, how many marketing messages? I can see, I've got my Diet Coke can. I've got a couple of books right here that have marketing messages. I've got some paperwork here from Bank of America. There's some marketing logos on there. Like, when I turn around in my house here, I probably see 4 or 5 different, like, just in my environment right now, as I look around, there are 25 marketing messages. Most of these are products, right, in my physical space right now. We're constantly bombarded all day long by messaging. The only way to break through in this work is consistency. And we do a podcast, it's called Win, Make, Give, and we recently had a whole series. I think we did 8 episodes of the podcast on persuasion and influence. And one of the scientific tactics behind persuasion is consistency. People are more likely to do business with, more likely to connect with brands that show consistency. I talked to Mark Spain one time. Mark Spain at one point was the #1 real estate agent team in the United States. And this probably would have been 5 years ago. And, he was doing back then, the #1 team in the United States was doing 12 or 1,300 transactions a year. And these days that's 3,000. But Mark Spain was the #1 agent. He built his business entirely on direct mail marketing. And he told me, I did a panel with him. I had the pleasure of hosting him on a panel in front of it might have been 1,000 agents. And he sat up there and he said, I'm not smarter than anybody else. I don't have like these crazy design chops or some totally secret weapon. He credited his success. He had the biggest real estate team in the United States at that point. Mark Spain credited his success with consistency. He just said, we do it multiple times a month, every single month, over and over. And we've been doing it the same way for 5 years, right? Direct mail marketing. We'll talk a little bit about that today. But when you have 100,000 people see your message one time, let's say you got 1 response out of that, right? So, and then let's say you had 10,000 people see your message 10 times. So the first time they saw it, well, actually, let's say on 100,000, you got 100 responses. And follow me on the math here, okay? Say you had 100,000 people see your message once and you got 100 responses. That would suggest that if I had 10,000 people see my message once, I would get 10 responses instead of 100, right? The math there would say I'd get 10 responses. The second time they saw my message, though, I wouldn't just get another 10 responses. I'd actually get 11. And the third time they saw it, I'd get 13. And each time additionally that they saw my message, more people would respond to my message. It's not linear. It's compounding. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the way compound interest works, but the more that they see our message, the response we get is not a one-to-one response. The next time they see it, it actually increases the number of people that potentially respond because they remember our message. They remember the consistency of having seen it last month or the month before, or in Mark Spain's case, for 5 years, this person had been getting a monthly consistent message from Mark Spain that they sold a lot of real estate. They sold houses. They sold them in this guy's neighborhood. So a lot of the things that we do in real estate, a lot of the marketing efforts I see, a lot of the ads I receive in my own Facebook feeds or when I'm in my, playing my Candy Crush app or whatever it is, I can tell these are very kind of shotgun approach, right? There's one guy, and I'm going to show him to you here in a little bit, but where I sit in my home right now in Kenmore, Washington, there is not really a real estate agent that has broken through the clutter of the constant bombarding of messaging I get in my life as a consumer right here in my home today. So how can we do that? Well, before we get in, we're going to dig in. I think the next slide, we're going to start talking about some of the tools you need and then some of the tactics. this doesn't have to be, when we think of farming, most agents think an area, right? Like a small town, my city, maybe even, like I'm just going to really focus on Kenmore. It could be a neighborhood, right? If I was in Seattle, I wouldn't necessarily focus on all of Seattle. It might be Wallingford, Seattle. It could also be a niche or like a demographic. So one of the, we have a lady, a Brivity client, and she focuses on military relocation, right? That's her niche. Now she lives around a base, right? But her marketing, she's not farming traditionally like in a neighborhood, right? Or even in a city, because around that base, there might be 8 cities that the people that live on that base would end up living in. I think about my mom as a real estate agent. She does business in Olympia, Washington, and Tacoma. And between Tacoma and Olympia, you've got a big base, Joint Base Lewis McChord. And if she decided to focus on military relocation, she wouldn't necessarily be doing it in Lakewood, like the one town, because it's Lakewood, and then you've got Lacey, and some of those people end up in Olympia and Bremerton and wherever, right? So it could be a demographic. One of the most successful people that I've seen ever do this is a good friend of mine. Her name is Courtney Cooper. And Courtney started on her journey to becoming the houseboat queen. And she has a partner, her and Molly. They sell more houseboats here in Seattle. And I don't know how many of you guys have seen like Sleepless in Seattle. Like, yeah, those houseboats, right? We've got them. There's a couple of lakes here, Lake Union and Montlake, where these houseboats are, they basically circle the lake. There's not that many of them. I don't know how many, 2,000 houseboats in all of Seattle. But she dominates that area. And what's happened is she started focusing on that niche. Now she sells condos that are on those lakes and houses that are on the lake. And she's kind of now become known as somebody that like works Lake Union, right? Like that's her area. She's the expert there. And we'll talk, I'll lace Courtney's story throughout here because I think it's a really cool way to, again, there is some geography there, but it's not like every house, condo, and she's really focused on houseboats and floating homes around Seattle. So it doesn't have to be a geography. It could be a niche. Some of you guys, if I was in Mesa, Arizona, I might be thinking about focusing on retirees moving to the area, right? Which means if I was doing direct mail marketing and had a listing, I might be sending that marketing up to some town in Iowa that I know a lot of people move to Mesa from. All right. Let's talk for a second about the tools. And there's just a couple tools here. But when I say what tools should you have, like I want you to think you're going to be out there actively and passively, both of those things, marketing your business. So some of it's going to be like you taking action. But in either one of those scenarios, whether we're actively doing it, we'll see some of those examples, or kind of more passively doing it, we'll see some of those. We need landing pages, calls to actions, things we can have the consumer do so they can see our message and go, yeah, this is the 9th time I've seen Ashley's message, right? Okay, and now I can capture that person. So a couple of the tools, you need a valuation offer, right? A seller valuation or just a what's your home worth style of offer. And that offer, right? This is one that my mom has on the back of her website. I told you guys she sells homes in Olympia, Washington. So she's got, how much is your Olympia home really worth? That, if you were from Olympia and you landed on this page, that speaks to you. You know exactly what that is. That's our Capitol building here in Washington State, right? She's got a couple variations of this page. She's got one that she uses when she's really targeting like waterfront homes in the area. And that one has a more kind of iconic shot of the Olympia waterfront area. But you need a seller valuation page, right? And Gail this could be a page on her website, by the way. Maybe it's like her website's bktsouthsound.com. And this could be located at bktsouthsound.com/home value or home_value or something like that. What we do is we get a specific URL no matter for that page, right? So it could be on your website at some long, / page. we try to get a domain that we could give to somebody over the phone, right? We could put on our postcard. It's easy for them to access that page to figure out their home's value in Olympia. So that might be olympiahousevalue.com, olympiahomevalues.com, you know, see what it's worth in olympia.com. Like, I don't know for your area what that'd be, what's available, what URLs could you go out and grab, but something easy explains to them in the URL, like, what are you getting and where is it for, right? Olympia. But we need this seller valuation offer. If you're a Brivity client, high five, like you've got these coming out of your nose. You can make as many of them as you want. We've got all these templated blocks. This one right here, I made this. I mean, I made it a long time ago for my mom. It probably took me 3 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe tops, to make this landing page for her website, right? And she doesn't just have one of these for Olympia, you guys. She's got one for Lacey, right? Because she markets and targets that. That's where she lives, right? She's got one for lake homes because she lives on a lake. She likes to talk to and deal with people that live on lakes. There's a whole kind of different set of things that come along your dock and all. You know, my mom knows all about living on lakes, right? So she targets that as kind of a niche market in her area. So she's got one. How much is your Thurston County lake home worth? Right? And as a Brivity client, you can make as many of these as you want. You just take a template, you copy that template, you change the word from Olympia to Lacey to Shelton, right? You change the background image so it's a photo of Shelton or an iconic shot of Olympia or what have you. Maybe it's your neighborhood, right? It's the park in the middle of the subdivision that you're farming and targeting. So we need this. This is a really important step, and we'll see it kind of come to life as we talk about the different tactics we can use to basically deploy this thing, this page offering somebody the value on their home out into the market. We need the easy home search option. And here's again what we do with this. This is the page on our website. The page you're looking at right now is the search page for Olympia, Washington homes for sale on Gail's website, my mom, bktsouthsound.com. So if you went to bktsouthsound.com, you said, I want to search listings, and then it says where, when you said Olympia, this is that page, right? And this is set up as kind of a hybrid view where we see the map on the right. It's got Olympia drawn out. You can see it in there. On the left, we've got all the properties for sale in Olympia in order by the newest house that hit the market, right? She could have her own property showing up at the top of this page or something like that. The URL of this page, once you've performed, it's this gnarly long, ridiculous thing, right? It's 7,000 characters, like bktsouthsound.com / search equals query, blah, 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 on and on and on, right? Way too long to ever give somebody on the phone. You'd never be able to. So we take that page and we basically buy a URL for it. And then we just, so it's, findyourolympiahome.com. And we forward it to this landing page on her website, right? The page that the search is already performed for you to go start looking for homes for sale in Olympia. Because again, if we're talking to someone, let's say we're doing circle prospecting around our open house that we were holding this weekend, and we said, hey, listen, we're calling everybody in the neighborhood because we promised our sellers that we'd let everybody know that we were hosting an open house this Saturday. You guys have any friends that are thinking about moving into the neighborhood, or maybe you guys want to stop by on Saturday and check out the home? Well, they inevitably say no, because when we do our circle prospecting efforts, it's one, to create consistency, because that's a neighborhood we want to sell houses, a lot more houses in, right? So it's to create consistency. It's never really that we expect that they're going to show up at our open house, but neighbors are nosy, and a lot of them do want to go through the neighbor's house to get an idea what kind of upgrades have they made, right? Especially if it's like one of those subdivisions where all the houses are kind of similar, right? And people get ideas from each other, and going into an open house and snooping on your neighbors is a way to do that. But when we're done, we say, listen, there's lots of great homes. I don't know if you guys are thinking about moving anytime soon, but you can head over to searchforhomesin.olympia.com if you are, right? It's just the houses in Olympia. Check it out. So we've got to have this easy home search option that we can deliver, right, in some of the different arenas that we might find ourselves needing to let somebody know where to go find the homes in the area that we're focused on, right? This could be a certain, let's say in Gail's case, I talked about her, she focused on lake homes. She does a lot of like mailings towards lake homes and stuff like this. This could be a search that she pre-performed on her site that was county Thurston, and then just any home on a lake, right? And we could have a landing page that just showed somebody homes in Thurston County on a lake. And she could go set up a domain for that, Thurston County lakehomes.com. The last one, we're going to see this threaded all throughout here, a variety of Quickly keywords. So Quickly is our texting service. We've got a concept inside of Quickly called instant keywords, where you set up a word. So Oli value for Olympia value, right? If somebody texted that keyword to 59559, we send them back a link to this site right here. Okay, so when Gail runs postcards, and I'm going to show you one of these in a minute. I don't know if it's Gail's, by the way, but when she runs a postcard, what does she do? The postcard says, we sold your neighbor's house, text Oli value to 59559 to see what your home's worth. When they do that, they're sent back to this site. How much is your Olympia home worth? Think about the consistency just in that. Here's a postcard, right? From me, Gail, right? Oh, see what your house is worth. Go here. They go there. It's this, Gail, right? The next thing she's going to do, I don't even have this on the list. She'd set up on a market report coming from who? Gail, right? It'd be for Olympia. Like there's a lot of congruency and consistency in that experience for the consumer, right? Gail's there the whole way, very specific to Olympia and delivering tools, even Oli value. Like the people in Olympia know that that's a way they talk about it. Oli market. Right? I might do that to deliver a market report back to somebody or allow them to sign up to get a market report around their home, right? Oli Homes, I might have that tied up to send back a link to my easy search option for how you find homes in Olympia, right? Oli Event. Oh, we're going to talk about events here in a minute. You see an example on the screen right now of somebody holding a drawing at a local farmer's market. All right, so we've got it. And listen, if you're a Brivity client, we give you the option. We give you like 3 of these keywords for free. You can just kind of tack them on to your main Quickly keyword you have. And that main one you put out on your listings. And let's just get real silly and stupid here for a second. Okay, before we get into some more kind of traditional like farming tactics. The best way you can farm a neighborhood is to take listings in that neighborhood so your sign's up there. Now, your sign's going to remain in the neighborhood for, 30 days on the low end, right? Hopefully not too long. You don't want to be the person who's, just taking any listing you can and they sit out there for 240 days and the neighbors all drive through and go, oh, man, Ben Kinney takes a lot of listings here. He doesn't seem to sell a lot of listings here, right? But your sign's going to stay in the yard, right? It's going to be one of the best ways you can kind of showcase to the neighbors that this is your area. Like you work here. If somebody wants to sell a house, long listings, like taking a listing overpriced can actually hurt that, right? It's more about like, is my sign moving? Does it have a sold guy on it every once in a while, right? But this is the most obvious way that we can kind of start to dominate a neighborhood. But how do we get here? Well, some of these other tactics we're going to talk about is how we get here. But I'm super proud of my mom, you guys. She did 79 transactions in her first year in real estate, 2017. So she hasn't been an agent for that long, but she's a superstar. She did 100,000 in GCI we're in August, in July, and she's going to do 125,000 GCI in August. Like she is amazing. This is in a $300,000 market too, right? Average price point, 350 maybe. She's told me 1 in 13 of the leads she gets on Quickly, right? Because she has a listing in her neighborhood, so she's got this sign out there, and hers is BKT South instead of text properties. Her keyword is BKT South. So her sign looks very similar to this. It says text BKT South to 59559 for price and photos. 1 in 13 of the people that text that into that become a client, become a contract with her in the first 30 days. 1 in 13. That's a really, really high number, really good. But here's what she told me. About 1 out of 3 of those contracts are a listing. And the reason why is it was a neighbor walking around the neighborhood that texted in about her listing to see what their neighbor down the street had listed it for, right? Had listed their home for. So when you start to get signs in the yards, the neighbors start to go, I wonder what that's listed for. And look, if you just use flyers, if Gail just used flyers, those neighbors would walk by, grab a flyer. Maybe they'd call Gail, maybe they wouldn't, right? Maybe they'd call Gail to list their house, maybe they wouldn't. She's not going to leave that to chance. She knows with her quickly sign deployed, when she takes a listing in that neighborhood, if any of the neighbors stroll by walking their dog and they're curious what that home's worth, she's going to get their cell phone number. And she's going to follow up with them, right? Let them know she's the most qualified in that market. She's the smartest. She sells the most houses there. And if you've ever, as a home buyer of Southern Olympia, if you end up talking to Gail Smith, like, you do not walk away with any misconceptions about how awesome this lady's going to be helping you get your house sold. But she's just got to capture them. That's what she does here, right? So obviously, if you have listings, that's a good leg up to start to kind of build on. But we've got to have a way to kind of make sure the neighbors can't just sneak up, grab the flyer, and be like, oh, okay, that's what they listed for, right? I got to capture their information if they want to do that as they walk the dog. All right, so a farming method would be to kind of make yourself visible in the community, right? Attend or sponsor community events. So let's give Courtney Cooper as an example. So when she first started, and we'll talk about blogging as a tactic here in a minute, or content creation, she started trying to kind of zone in on houseboats or floating homes in Seattle from a blogging approach. And eventually it moved into the physical world, right? And look, if you're not tech savvy, right, you may do it in the physical world first and then start doing some other things as you can hire leverage to do geo-fenced advertising and some of the other things we'll talk about. But Courtney started doing a floating homes tour. So she's got this, a friend of hers had this cool little boat, and I forget what the boats are called, but they're the ones that have like, actually, have you ever been on Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland? Or not Pirates of the Caribbean, the jungle one, Jungle Cruise. One of those type of boats, right? That's what she has out on Lake Union. So she'd take people on these floating home tours, right? So this was like this kind of community thing, and it became a deal where like the neighbors would come out to the end of the dock and wave, and she did it like once a month or once a quarter. When she started, she would do these kind of community events, right? Come and kind of experience the life of living on the lake. And she'd market them on places like The Stranger, or, if you go and Google, like, what's happening in Seattle this weekend, she'd make sure her little floating home tour was on all the sites that showed up on Google when you said, what's going on in Seattle this weekend? Now, this next piece, using quickly as a call to action. So what we see here on the right-hand side, this is Danielle Goheen. She's a Brivity client in Redmond, Washington, here in my area. And they have a thing, I think it's called Redmond Lights, or the Redmond Town Center Lights, or whatever. During Christmas time at Redmond Town Center, they've got this Christmas light display, and people come there and walk around, and there's booths and this sort of thing. And so at her community event that she sponsored, a lot of times what an agent would do is they'd like show up, they'd have like their open house sign out there. Maybe they'd have some kind of a financing flyer, and I don't know what, pens to give away or notepads or something, right? Well, what Danielle decided to do is she decided to use Quickly as a strategy, right? Maybe she'd use her, only event keyword. Now she got the keyword lights, right? So she was going to give away something, $100 gift card to, in this case, the Redmond Town Center, because that's where the event was being held, right? We've had people do this at home shows. We've had them do it at bridal showers. We've had farmers markets is a really popular one. That one we saw earlier where the guy was giving the bike away, that was at a farmer's market. It could be a $100 gift card to the farmer's market or whatever, right? It could be cash. Like, They're going to text the keyword lights, in this case, to 59559 to enter to win the prize, the bike, the gift card, the Christian Louboutin red bottom shoes if you're doing a bridal show, whatever it is, right? We do this, we do a food truck rally in Bellingham that we sponsor where we give away a $200 gift card to a local Bellingham restaurant, right? It kind of connected to the food truck rally. So text lights to 59559. What she does when they text that is she sends a form back. The text response when they text lights is a form that gets sent back to the person, and it just says, to complete your entry to win the $100 gift card, click here. Now, if they don't click there, if they're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't want to give all my information, that's fine. We have their cell phone number, somebody that wanted to win something, right? Not that valuable of a lead for your database, by the way. They're just somebody that wants free stuff, right? But when they get the form, what the form would have on it then would be name, email, phone number, physical address, because we got to be able to send them the gift card somewhere, right? And then we use qualifier questions whenever we do an event, and we do a lot of them on the Ben Kinney teams, right? Bridal shows, home shows, farmers markets, the food truck rally. We have different like the Easter hunt or photos with Santa or all these things, right? In almost every case, we are giving something away at that public event. We've got teams that sponsor Little League baseball games, and they get to hang the little banner up on the backstop. It has an offer, right? $100 gift card to Big Five Sporting Goods, right? Text Little League to 59559. But when you do that, you get a form back. What's your name? What's your email? What's your phone number? What's your physical address? And then 4 qualifier questions. And our qualifier questions sound something like this. The first one would be around buying a home. You know, are you considering buying a new home in the next 12 months? Yes or no? The second question, and that's where, well, I'll come back. The second question, are you considering selling the home you live in, or do you own a home now and curious about what's worth? Yes or no? Question number 3, have you considered investing in real estate as a vehicle to build wealth? Yes or no? And the fourth question, one that almost everybody misses, is have you considered a career in real estate? Look, every single day when we get up, we're looking for 4 things in our world. People that want to buy a house, people that want to sell a house, people that want to invest in real estate, and people that want to start a career in real estate. So every chance we get, we're going to ask those questions of people. What a great way to ask those questions of people. Attending and sponsoring community events is a great way to bulk your database up if you have a plan of how to get that person sitting in the bleachers watching their kid play baseball to like take action on your advertisement. Most don't. As you walk through the local events, your farmer's market, you're just now that you know there's a strategy like this, look and see if anybody's doing this. The answer is no. What do they have? They have like a phone number and like a website address, but they don't really give them a compelling reason to go visit that website. Right? All right. Partner with local businesses. I can't, look, every day I go into a local business here in Kenmore, Washington. Well, maybe not as much these days, right? But I don my mask, I go out, I get my hair cut, I pick up my dry cleaning. Yeah, we'll give you guys the replay here. You'll get the replay. So I walk in these businesses every day. And in every one of the local businesses here around, right? Not everyone, a lot of them, they'll have like I think about where I get my hair cut. They've got this, it's like, I feel like it's been there for 40 years, right? And if you were to dig kind of the papers off of it, I'm sure there'd be like an event flyer from like 1983, right? But it's like a cork board or something. And obviously people come by the barbershop and maybe they don't even ask. I don't know. Maybe just stick something up there and hope nobody covers it up, right? But they have those things. Or sometimes like at the cash register, you'll see people have put their business cards. They've allowed somebody to come in there and like put their business card, right? What we do in these scenarios is we would have like this little, I should actually have a picture of it, this little like placard or these like plastic small, right? Like there probably can't be any more than maybe 6 by 8 inches, and they kind of slant back a little bit. They're hard plastic, and then you can just put your little call to action inside of that thing, right? So what we'll do, we have kind of 2 varieties of the calls to action. Okay, it's see what your house is worth. Well, it's the 3. See what your house is worth. Keep updated on what's selling around you, or a list of the 10 best properties in Bellingham. Those are the 3 things that we'll offer, right? And like, you know, we're constantly going to local businesses and trying to bring value to them, right? So it's look, I don't know what the conversation is when you sit down with a local business and say, can I put my business card in front of your cash register? I would imagine it sounds something like, on the Ben Kinney team here in Olympia, we have 70 new people that move into town every year. Next year, we'll probably have 100. The year after that, we'll have 150. All 70 of those people that move into Olympia, they need somewhere to get their haircut. So what we were hoping is we have a list that we keep of all the local vendors. So when somebody moves in, we say, here's where you should get your haircut. Here's where you should get your dry cleaning done. Here's where you should call if you need your yard work taken care of. And we give our clients who move into Olympia that list. We also share that list with local renters as a way to market our business, right? Is just to be kind of this resource for the community. Would it be okay, or would it be of value to you if we added you to our local vendor list? But what we'd like to do is be able to leave a little piece of marketing here so that any of your clients who might be curious what their house is worth, or need help selling or finding their next home, if they could, you know, if we could kind of make that trade, right? It would sound something like that. I'm assuming that's the conversation that's how someone's business card kind of got there in front of the cash register. But is that valuable? Like, is that business card valuable? It might be valuable to somebody who's like sitting there waiting to get their haircut, and they're like on their phone. They're like, man, we should like find a house. And then they go up and like, there's a realtor business card, and they're like, oh my God, the stars have aligned. Like, most people aren't like looking to buy or sell today when they're in getting their haircut, but like the 10 best price properties, and you know, maybe it's you know, the investment seminar, right? Well, I know that's another one we do, where we'll hold like a real estate investing seminar, right? And we'll go to all our local businesses where we have the little plaque thing out, and that's what we'll swap out, right? Text seminar, you know, RE investor to 59559 to sign up for our free local real estate seminar. All right, local businesses, direct mail marketing. I talked to you guys earlier. I said, look, I'm bombarded by marketing messages, not real estate. I'm also, by the way, bombarded by real estate messages that are real estate because of a tactic we'll talk about in a little bit, or kind of a tactic, geofencing or targeted internet marketing. Like, I get treated like a real estate consumer. I look at real estate, it's kind of a passion or a hobby of mine. My wife and I are always looking for our next investment property, right? So I'm getting marketed to online very aggressively. But in my day-to-day, like, I'm not getting much real estate marketing hitting me, except this guy. I don't know this guy. I didn't even ask him if I could use this example on this webinar. I just figured this showed up at my house like a week ago. In fact, it showed up at my house the month before that, and the month before that. It's been showing up here every single day since I moved here, basically. How long have we lived here? 3 years. It's one of the only things that when I pull it out of the mailbox, I'm kind of thankful for it. Look, guys, I have access to more real estate data than probably every consumer who's looking to buy or sell a house right now in the United States. I've got hundreds of MLS feeds at our disposal here. Like, I've got all the data. I like this postcard. In fact, I talked to my wife about this postcard. I just said to her, I swear to you guys, this landed. Look, you can see July statistics. This landed in my home here in August. Him telling me what was sold here in Kenmore in July. When I got this thing, I went over to my wife. Look, we bought for $660 3 years ago. We have a 3-bedroom, 2,900 square feet. So I grabbed my wife and I was like, hey, look, honey, there's a 3-bedroom, 2,600. It's 300 square feet smaller than ours. It sold for $885. We bought for $660. You know, like, we're doing pretty good. Like, if I wasn't in real estate, I'm in real estate. When I'm going to buy or sell, I'm going to do it with the Van Kinney team, right? But there's a lot of people in this neighborhood who are going to do it with Chris Byler. Is that his name? Yeah, Chris Byler. It's the consistency. This thing's been showing up to me every. The reason I even have this picture, because my wife is super clean. She tossed this thing out right after it was here. The reason I have this picture, because we're going to build this in Brivity. We're going to build the ability for you to do this automatically without touching anything. Now, today, you would have to put in a little effort to get something like this out of Brivity, but we do have automation around just listed and just sold postcards. So you can automatically, and here's the deal. Here's what I would say to you. You should do just listed postcards every time you take a listing. You should do just sold postcards every time you take a listing. But you should also do just sold or every time you sell a listing as the selling agent, or the selling agent, the listing agent. You should also do a just sold postcard every time you sell a home as the buyer's agent, especially if you're doing it in that, you know, that area you're trying to farm into. Like every time Gail, my mom, where she's the buyer's agent on a home that sells in Olympia, she blasts Olympia with a just sold postcard. She sold the house. She brought the buyer to that house. Right? So don't just think about your just sold from the perspective of, I have a listing and that listing sold, I'm going to, you know, trumpet my success as a listing agent. Trumpet your success when you sell a home as a buyer's agent too. Now here's the other thing. If I was a newer agent and I wasn't selling a lot, but I wanted to make it look like I was, I would go to my broker. And we used to do this. We had a real estate brokerage years ago, Brio Realty. And we would have agents who would come and say, hey, I don't have any business, but I want to like promote a listing we have. And I'd say, awesome, let's go grab Merle Ventures. She's got a bunch of listings, and I'm sure she'd love it if you promote her listing. So go to your broker and like talk to the broker and say, hey, I'd like to run a couple just sold postcard campaigns. I won't act like I sold them. I'll make it seem like the office sold them. But if they'd like to talk to somebody that could help them do the same thing, my number is going to be on there. Right? You can run campaigns. You just have to have permission from the listing agent, right? The person who's got the contract with the seller. So go get permission. And the reality is your broker is actually the one who can grant you permission. You'd still want to get Merle Venters' blessings, right? All right. Listen, you take this with a grain of salt, you guys. I'm one of the co-founders of Active Rain, a blogging platform that we've been around since 2006, right? I'm a firm believer in content as a marketing strategy. I believe today, 15 years after the kind of the birth of blogging as a business concept, I believe the only way to blog today is in a very particular niche or very narrow geographic market. And one of the reasons for that is you are never going to create content or have the marketing budget or the traffic that a place like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Zip Realty, Redfin, right? Just Google homes for sale in your city. Doesn't matter what city you do, by the way. It's like the same 8 portals are there. And then there's always one agent, there's an actual agent who's been working on it for 15 years, right? They show up. And then there's always like a brokerage, a Coldwell Banker or somebody, right? And that's who's on the first page of Google, always in every market. The aim with blogging is to get you showing up in a very specific targeted area. I'll give you an example. Like, I'm going to come out here and, Houseboat Seattle, right? If you do that, this is my friend Courtney, right? She's here and she's here. And by the way, she is constantly battling with this other person to be up at the top, right? Floating Homes, Seattle. And I've never done. I had done the other one before. I didn't know what I was going to get. Same, very similar results, right? She's got 2 websites here, her Cooper Jacobs and her Seattle Afloat. And this is her blog. When we get in here and look at her blog, she just, by the way, had CNN come and tour Lake Union. And we could read about it. Here's her blog post that she wrote about CNN coming to tour around Lake Union with her. I don't know if they came for her houseboat tour that she does, right? She's constantly being written about on Curbed, which is that other site that we saw kind of above hers, Curbed, right? And it's possible, if we were to look here, I don't know for sure, but it's possible. No, this was written by somebody else. This was written by somebody else, by the way, that's taking an approach that Courtney should have been taking. And I know she writes for Curbed, but this idea that I could offer that content that I'm writing about that local area to other publications, news sites, the Curbs of the world, The Stranger, whatever in your area is kind of those local flavored sites. Where do we go? I want to take you through. Go look at Seattle Afloat. I went to an Inman conference I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and Gary Vaynerchuk, you guys have all know, like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's like the marketing wizard, right? This guy. And he got up there and he was talking to a bunch of real estate agents, and he was talking about tactics. Gary V. Yeah, you got it, Ashley. He was talking about real estate marketing tactics, some of the most effective ones. He used Courtney Cooper and her targeted niche blogging approach as the example at the Inman conference, to which I sat in the audience in massive delight because I helped Courtney formulate the strategy for herself 10 or 12 years ago on Active Rain, right? And it's been a long time, and she's been doing this forever, but there are a lot of niches where nobody's ever done this, right? Might be military relocation around Joint Base Lewis McChord, okay? Could be, retirement, retirees moving from Iowa to Mesa. And I just say Iowa because I lived in this little neighborhood in Mesa, Parkwood Ranch, and there was 3 of my neighbors were snowbirds who went back and forth between Iowa. They all lived in 3 different cities in Iowa. So I know people from Iowa, like they move and buy houses for retirement in Mesa. If I sold homes in Mesa, I'd probably want to know that too, right? I'd hope I would. But sometimes it's just her, by the way, Brivity, this is her Brivity website. So she's doing kind of the proper linking tactics, and the content that she's creating on this blog, right, is helping her drive traffic back to her website. Right. I could do 5-hour class on blogging, you guys. It can be very, very effective. But this is another one of those things where if I wrote about 10 different things, that would be less effective than writing 10 pieces of content about one thing, right? About floating homes in Seattle, for example. How much time we have? 12 minutes? All right. Sometimes the first time I've ever delivered a piece of content, I never know how long I'm going to get in here. So we're going to breeze through these next few. Before, short of like partnering with local business, but to me, that's like it's effort once that kind of then the marketing's out there and it pays off. Most of these are relatively passive, right? Like attending or sponsoring community events. There's you got to have a little bit of personality if you're going to be, attending an event or sponsoring it in your booths out there, right? But most of these are passive. This is not passive. Neither is this, right? This is action, activity. Half of us probably get sick to our stomach when we even think about going out and knocking on a bunch of doors in a neighborhood or picking up a phone and calling all the neighbors in a particular neighborhood, right? But I'll tell you what, if Chris Byler shows up at my house right now, I've never met this guy. I just get his stinky postcard once a month telling me what's sold. If this dude shows up at my house, like I'm going to have a conversation with him, right? It's not going to be like this. I'm probably going to recognize him. I'm going to be like, I know you. Who are you, right? These things work in tandem. we generally do this for a reason. We don't generally just go knocking doors in neighborhoods, right? We generally do this because we just put a home on the market in that neighborhood. We just listed something, right? That might sound something like knock, 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 a couple steps back. I'm a pretty tall guy. Standing at their door might be a little bit awkward, right? So I take a few steps back. And it might sound something like, hey, my name is Bob Stewart. I'm a local Keller Williams agent here in the area. We just listed your neighbor's house. In fact, it's right over there on 83rd Street. And one of the promises we made to them is that we would let every single one of their neighbors know that their house was for sale in case you guys had somebody that you knew that was thinking about moving into the neighborhood. You guys know anybody that's looking to move into the neighborhood? And they, again, 99 times out of 100 are going to say no. But we're just building consistency with this person, right? They've already gotten our just listed and just sold postcard, right? They've seen us out at the community event. Could be just listed. Could be we just sold the house, right? We need more listings in the neighborhood. Could be we have an open house coming up that weekend. Could be we have a buyer that's wanting to move into the neighborhood. We do those same reasons on Circle Prospecting. We use Mojo. We practice some script that we want to do. Maybe it's we have a buyer looking in the neighborhood. Hi, this is Bob Stewart. I'm calling with Windermere. Listen, do you have a few minutes? I wanted to ask you, we've got a buyer, somebody that's looking to try to live in the neighborhood you guys live in, and there's no houses. There's nothing on the market right now that they love. So I promised them I would call all the neighbors and see if anybody was even remotely thinking about selling their house. Is that you? Shut up. Wait for response. Look, you could go dig up Ben Kinney's scripts. You could Google Ben Kinney scripts. You could go into our Facebook group on Mastermind if you're a Brivity user and get his scripts. We sell Ben Kinney's scripts. Can you guys see you guys see me? We sell these scripts. We sell them for 99 bucks. I think there's 50 scripts in here for 99 bucks. We give all the money away to charity. It's a place called Lydia's Place. It's in Bellingham. It's an organization that builds housing for single moms. Gets me a little bit choked up even talking about it. I was raised by a single mom, but this is our passion. This is what we do. We deliver the dream of home ownership. And so we, our charitable efforts go towards Lydia's Place, which is a local charity. So if you text scripts to 59559, you'll use quickly, first off, but you'll get a link back to go and buy our scripts if you wanted to buy them. They're 99 bucks. They're all in one place. They're on these fun little cards that we use every morning at our scripts and dialogues practice. The money goes to charity. Or go out. You can find our scripts in our masterminds group. Heck, I'll give you Ben Kinney's cell phone number if you want. You can text him and ask for the script. The last thing I think I have on here is targeted advertising or geofencing. So what is geofencing? Geofencing basically allows me, if I know what the heck I'm doing, and I don't, by the way, but Grant, who runs our advertising team here at Brivity, he knows what he's doing. But geofencing allows me to target ads to phones that walk into a certain perimeter, essentially, right? So for example, let's say I was doing Olympia. Okay, I can literally set up a geofence around the city of Olympia so that as cell phones came and went from Olympia, those people get added to my advertising role, and then I'm actually serving ads up to these people as they move and they go and they do things, right? That could be, they can get very specific and precise here. This could be like, I lived in Parkwood Ranch down in Mesa, for example. It's a neighborhood of, I don't know, a couple 2,000 homes, one of these big kind of master plan communities like they have in the sprawling areas of Phoenix. But I could put up a geofence around there, which would mean any of the people that lived in there would end up in that targeted ad audience. Holly says, is it artificial intelligence? Yeah, essentially, Holly. It's, we're using these programs that you can use to target these. They're basically, I wouldn't call them artificial intelligence as much as I call them advertising networks. But are they using elements of artificial intelligence? Yeah, highly likely. So right? And I could Parkwood Ranch. And so then it's like, I'd advertise anybody that lives there, right? They're driving in and out of that geofence all the time. But I'd also end up advertising what? To their friends and family, the people that come over and visit those folks and then leave their house and return to, you know, their home in Scottsdale, right? I still could serve ads to them. Hey, do you want to live in Parkwood Ranch? You'd be closer to your neighbor, you know, you'd be closer to that person you just visited, right? Bruce, we'll give you a copy of the recording of the presentation. Yes, sir. All right, I'm done. That's the last thing I have, which is good because we've got 5 minutes left. If you do not have the Brivity platform, okay, you're on this call, you don't have the Brivity platform, we have a bunch of different price levels, so it can be really affordable for you, or if you've got a really big team, you know, it's a little bit, and you want all the bells and whistles that we offer, the Quickly, the market report tool, which I didn't really even touch on too much, you know, the seller valuation pages, the buyer website stuff, text platform to 59559. If you do that, one of our Ashley, who's here with me right now, Ashley or Jake or Kyler or one of these folks, Tim, one of the people on our sales team would reach out and kind of talk to you about the different options for the Brivity platform. Let me go back. So a couple people have asked, will we get a copy of this thing? We will definitely get you guys the video. I'm not 100% sure on the slides, but yeah, you'll get a copy of me doing the presentation, which obviously the video presentation have the slides in it. Let me see. I saw some questions, but I was blazing through here. So Toby says, quickly sign question. I'd love to have quickly signs in hyper local neighborhoods with high visibility and traffic. What is the pitch to get them to text for a market report or home value? I would make the pitch. There's a couple ways you could go here. It could be, the pitch could be like, learn how to invest in real estate. You have to think about, like, what do people aspire to, Toby? Learn how to buy your first rental. Learn how to become an Airbnb host. Get a list of the 10 best price properties in, Toby, you're in Everett, you know, the 10 best price properties in Muckleteal, right? You know, be notified every time one of your neighbor's house sells. See what your neighbor's house sold for. See what your home's worth. I mean, it's a good question. It's a great question. It's one of those things, right? It just depends. Like, if it was me and you were totally living up to me, I would take the real estate investing angle. I think a lot of people aspire to be a real estate investor, right? I'd have a class. Well, I do it once a quarter. So for 3 months, I would market that class and I'd put the signs out in the neighborhoods that, you know, where would you put those signs, by the way? If I was doing an investment class, I'd put them in the neighborhoods that are kind of that up and coming high end neighborhood, right? Where I know the people that live in there make pretty good money and they're probably getting to the place where they want to move to that bigger, newer neighborhood. But I'd try to convince them that's a bad idea. They should start investing in real estate to build real wealth first. Okay, what other questions does anybody that's here hanging out in these last couple of minutes have for me? Just around any of these concepts, maybe around Brivity and kind of what it is and what it does. All right, if you're not a Brivity client, so I've got Ashley here. She's amazing, by the way. If you're not a Brivity client and you didn't already text platform to 59559, or even if you did, if you're curious about talking to us about Brivity and you're like, I actually have time right now, put your phone number in the chat and I'll have Ashley give you a call. You can even put it in private if you want to, you know, not make sure you don't feel weird about it or something, but okay, you guys get out there, take 1 or 2 of these tactics, right? Look, I don't expect you to come here and be like, I learned 5 things, 8 things. I'm going to take it all. Just take one of these things and go deploy it, especially if you're a Brivity client, like please, please, please. I know you're not using all of these tools in concert. Just start to think about how they all work together. You guys have an awesome, today's Wednesday, have an awesome rest of your week. On behalf of Ashley and then Mikey and Samantha, who helped me let you guys know these are happening so you show up. My name is Bob Stewart. Bye-bye, everybody.